I see thumbs up, so we're gonna get going. Welcome to our first application workshop for entry year 2027 to the Joint Admission Medical Program. My name is Chris Strong. I'll have a chance to introduce myself a little bit more on a future slide, but welcome to our program overview and application timeline session. Today, we're going to be going over a lot of great information about the program, talking about eligibility, and also giving you some good tips to think about as you may consider starting this process. But just to dive in, JAMP is all about making the path to medical school a reality for Texans just like you. And I'm excited to get to brag on the program and talk a little bit about what makes this pathway so amazing and how it could be your best fit for a pathway to medicine. But to kind of kick us off with a great overview of our program, I've got a great video that I want to share with you all that has some of our JAMP Scholar voices featured loud front and center. So let's just tune in and we will get a nice overview of our program.
Pursuing higher education, at least in my family, was unheard of. Becoming a doctor was unheard of.
So when I told them, hey, I want to go to college after graduating, they're like, no, like that's not for us. We don't have the money. You just need to go work at some restaurant or something and make a living off of that.
I am one of the first generations to enter the medical field.
We have a physician workforce shortage. The state of Texas is large, as everybody knows, but we have 3 county areas with 1 physician trying to take care of all of those people.
I knew healthcare was always for me. Oftentimes, it didn't seem possible with the resources that I had to become a doctor.
JAMP makes med school accessible to students who might not otherwise think it's possible. It helps them accomplish their dream, and it brings more people into the medical community in Texas. It's not uncommon for students in the process with JAMP to come across experiences that maybe the typical applicant to med school wouldn't have. They may be facing family issues, financial trouble. What we do is provide support. We help them connect with resources, things that can help them overcome whatever that hardship might be, and to reassure them that they're not alone, that we are here to support their process in getting into med school.
I've seen multiple cases of students who have started off with low self-confidence and who are now physicians. So it's actually quite a privilege to be in a program like JAMP.
One of the rich things that JAMP provides is an opportunity to be in community with like-minded students, many of whom have come from financially compromised backgrounds, those that have similar experiences to you.
When life happens to you sort of in a challenging way, you have someone to go to, your JAMP community.
We provide support in a variety of ways, including financial, emotional, any way that we can to help a student succeed.
A lot of times students come in with a kind of a student mindset, and we really try to focus on you're becoming a professional.
We call our students scholars because we believe that from the very beginning we are selecting and training students that are going to go on to be medical professionals.
We have over 600 JAMP physicians out in the communities of Texas in underserved areas, and 500 more JAMP students in training at one level or another.
My name's Kennedy Hawkins. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm a JAMP Scholar.
I'm Daniel Kazi. I'm from the Woodlands, Texas, and I am a JAMP Scholar.
My name's Maria Palacios. I'm from Plano, Texas, and I'm a JAMP Scholar. JAMP is an opportunity that changed my life because now I can go to med school.
If you're thinking about JAMP, I totally encourage you to apply. You're going to make professional friends that are going to be friends for life.
JAMP is an opportunity that will change your life.
Go to the website, reach out to JAMP, and we'll help you the rest of the way.
I couldn't have said it better myself, but you do get the opportunity to hear a little bit more of our program's details today. So I'm excited to get to share all of that as we work through today's workshop and get to chat about the program. And so, as I mentioned, my name is Chris Strong, and I currently serve as the Associate Director of Student Success for the Texas Health Education Service and JAMP, and I'm excited to get to talk about the program with you all today. My background's in med school, recruitment and admissions, and a bunch of other great student support things, but really my job with JAMP is to operationalize and support students just like you in making their dreams come true of becoming a physician. And so my work and my why is all about supporting applicants all the way from just an interest session like this all the way to their end goal of becoming a future physician. So it's my pleasure to get to know you today and get to talk about your journey and how it could potentially start right here with JAMP. So some objectives for today's session are we're going to go over what JAMP is and some of our great program outcomes. I will give you some recommendations on ways to prepare for the process and what that looks like, whether that's our program eligibility, getting ready for all of the documents that we require for our application process. I will also be going over important application deadlines and timelines. And so I really encourage you to take a look at that for sure. And I'll also be going over your role of meeting with your JFD and some other important steps to be ready for the application process, as we have already opened the application for this year. And so just making sure that you feel confident as you're completing that process. So to start off, what is JAMP? The Joint Admission Medical Program provides supports for students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds from across the state of Texas to successfully matriculate into medical school and pursue a career in medicine. So again, this is a legislatively supported program that allows for financial, networking, mentorship, and clinical support as you pursue the pathway to medicine in order to fill the gaps of the experiences of economically disadvantaged students, which you might relate to that background. You might not know for sure if you come from that background. But again, this program is in place to make a difference for Texas in these areas that don't have access to physicians. And so you are stepping up for a big cause by just being interested in potentially pursuing this pathway. And I'm excited to chat a little bit more. As our video mentioned earlier, there's some great program benefits associated with being a part of JAMP. The first is pretty obvious. There is some great financial assistance provided by our program that's funded through the Texas legislature, whether that's through public school scholarships. If you attend a private school that participates in the JAMP process, they should have an equivalent JAMP-related scholarship as a part of the program. Additionally, we provide summer stipends to support your time through some amazing summer internship experiences at our participating medical schools. And we also provide a very valuable medical school interview stipend to help you navigate that expensive process of getting through and interviewing with a great variety of participating medical schools. And lastly, we continue to support financially for our scholars all the way through medical school. We provide scholarships every year of medical school, which is a huge opportunity and a great way to continue to support your journey on becoming a future physician. Another big piece of support that we provide as a program is our Jack Weston MCAT preparation course, which is completely paid for by the program, that gives you a year long of support as you are navigating through a very expensive process of preparing and sitting for the MCAT exam. And this is a big part of your journey to medical school, and we want to make sure that you feel supported and encouraged throughout that entire journey. We also see you beyond just academics and just as scholars. We see you as whole people. And so we also provide support in helping teach you about financial wellness, to teach you about holistic wellness and mental health in ways that allow you to not only be a good student, but to be a more holistically well and healthy person, so that you can show up for your future patients, show up for yourself, and show up to do the great work that you are seeking to do. Additionally, mentorship is a huge component of our program, where you will have connections with alumni physicians, our JAMP faculty directors at all of our undergraduate campuses, our medical school coordinators who help support programming at every medical school campus that participates with JAMP, along with a very supportive JAMP administration team and a wonderful set of medical school personnel, faculty, and deans that are all rooting for you and encouraging you through your journey to medicine. As I've mentioned a little bit already, there are 2 awesome summer internship experiences associated with the program where you will get to travel to a medical school over the month of June and get to participate in clinical experiences, medical school style coursework. You'll get to enhance your experience with research and writing, and you'll have the opportunity to really hone these skills and increase your readiness for medical school in a medical school environment. There is no other program in the world that's like this, and I'm excited to continue to talk about how you could potentially qualify and apply for this program. Really, the biggest thing that is a benefit of JAMP is our guaranteed admission to one of our participating Texas medical schools if you meet all program expectations and criteria and maintain good professional and academic standing with our program and your undergraduate institution. As I mentioned, JAMP could be your golden ticket to medical school. On your screen here, I have listed the 14 participating medical schools that partner with JAMP to ensure that you are ready and prepared for medical school. So I encourage you to take a snapshot of this screen or check out our participating schools list in our website in order to have this list available to you. There is no other opportunity out there to qualify for 14 amazing medical schools here in Texas than through our program. And it's without their support, we could not prepare students just like you for this. So big thank you to our participating schools who make this all possible alongside this program leadership. But again, I wouldn't be able to really brag about the program if there was nothing to brag about. And so I do want to talk about some program outcomes. Like, does JAMP actually work? I'm happy to report that in our 25 years of existence with the legislature and after 23 years of successful JAMP cohorts, that we are proud to have 800 plus medical school graduates with 600 plus students currently in this day preparing in JAMP, whether they're at medical school or in their undergraduate journey. That is a huge number of future physicians for Texas, and we're excited that this program is working and that it's really benefiting not only these students who might not have had another pathway to medicine, but also the state that is funding and supporting and these communities that really need physicians to help them. 65% of JAMP medical school graduates entered a medical school residency in Texas. So in case you're not familiar, you have even more school after medical school and more training after that. And 65% of them have chosen to stay in Texas, supporting Texas communities, us meeting our mission. And 60% of medical school graduates become a primary care physician. And so they are working with patients over a long time period. They're creating a continuity of care. They're making a difference. They're part of the communities that they're embedded in. And it's making a huge difference in providing access to healthcare for communities that really need it here in Texas. So yes, JAMP works. I'm proud to brag on it. I'm proud to support it. And I'm excited that you guys are all interested in potentially joining and being a part of this great mission. So you're all here for a reason, and that's because you all want to be prepared applicants for our JAMP application this year, and I'm happy to walk through all of it with you today. As I mentioned, we should have time for questions throughout today's presentation, but I do feel free to chime in the chat if something on a slide comes to mind or if you have a particular question, and I'll be happy to answer it as the flow makes sense. Or again, if you want to save those questions to the end of my presentation, I promise I will leave a good 10 minutes at least for any questions that you may have. So to kind of talk the logistics, the boring logistics of getting into the program, there are 2 admissions tracks available to you to apply for the JAMP program. There is the early admission track and there is the regular admission track. Both are great tracks to enter the program, but I do want to quickly kind of glaze through this. Most of you joining today are likely eligible to apply right this very moment, but just in case there's anyone on the call that is just interested in learning about when they can apply to JAMP, If you are in the case where you have a lot of dual credit coursework and you're entering college early, so like for example, you've got 27 dual credit hours and basically you're starting your first year of college as a sophomore, then you're able to apply the fall of your first year. If you are like many of our regular applicants and you have finished your first year of college and you are in good academic standing, you'll apply during the fall or right now of your second year of college. So you're going to be a rising sophomore if you're a traditional student who doesn't have all this college credit that's classifying you above. If you have even more credit than that, I encourage you to reach out to us so we can handle your case by case situation and let you know if you're eligible or not. But there are these two pathways. And if you're more of a visual learner, I've got it out here. So if you are an early admissions folk, you're a high school senior who did 27 hours of dual credit, you're walking into college as a sophomore already, you get to apply right away when you join college. If you're part of our regular admissions track, so if you're like most students and you've finished your first year of college, you've got all of your good academic standing, your GPA looks good and meets our eligibility requirements, you will apply to JAMP starting right now or potentially in the fall when you feel like you've got your letters of recommendation and things like that, but we will talk a little bit more about that in a second. So again, there are two tracks. Hopefully you fall into one of those categories right now. If so, then great, you can continue to take notes and this is going to be applicable for this year. If you're not quite eligible yet on that time frame, I encourage you to stay on because you'll get to learn some valuable information. So like you're an entering freshman right now, or if you maybe don't align with that pathway exists like right this moment, this is still valuable information for you to get about the program. So before you apply to JAMP, there are some things you need to keep in mind. First, you need to be attending a participating college or university, and I've got lists of those private and public institutions on my slides coming up. You will also need to review the JAMP program criteria and guidelines, which we will be going over today, and I will kind of walk us through those. You'll need to be building a support team, whether that's faculty members that you've engaged in during your college experience, whether that's a community mentor, whether that is a physician you maybe have shadowed or a nurse practitioner that you've gotten to work with, or someone who can, speak to or talk about your clinical experience. You'll also just want to find those supportive people in your life, like friends or family that are excited for you and willing to support you during what can be a really long and very complicated process. But again, JAMP is here to make it easier for you. And lastly, and probably most importantly, is that at each of our participating institutions, it is very important for you to get connected to your JAMP Faculty Director, who can provide you some guidance, get you in contact with the JAMP administration, and also support you through the process, through preparing your application, through submitting it, making sure you've got your letters of rec, all of those helpful things like that. I've got a question in the chat about timeline, which is a very good one. So if you have over 90 credits, but you're still going to have another 3 years left of college going into your sophomore year, you would still be eligible for the program. I encourage you to reach out to us so we can just make sure you are like fully eligible. But really the most important part of the timeline is that you're still just able to commit the same amount of undergraduate time as your fellow cohort mates that would be joining the class with you, because you can't matriculate to medical school too early with this pathway in particular. So again, happy to answer those questions on a more case-by-case basis. But yes, in general, if you have a bunch of credits, but you still have the same amount of time, you are still eligible in your case. As I mentioned earlier, we have a great number of public and private institutions that participate in JAMP. There are 68 institutions, and so this list is the list of public institutions. So if you attend a public university here in Texas, you'll be wanting to take a look at our list of participating schools and make sure that you're there. If you are at a private school and you are and you'll want to just make sure you're on this list somewhere there. And again, you do have to be enrolled full-time at one of these undergraduate institutions in order to qualify for the program. Additionally, to quickly go over the greatest hits of the program, you do need to have completed 2 semesters of organic chemistry prior to the fall semester after your first internship year, which is a little bit of confusing terminology, but essentially, during this next year post application, you need to have completed your organic chemistry track. So over the next fall and spring, you'll be expected to finish OChem 1 and 2 satisfactorily with at least a C or above. You must be 18 years of age or older. This ensures that you are the correct age when you are entering medical school. So no child prodigies, unfortunately. You must have the physical ability and mental ability to participate in both of our summer internships provided by JAMP. And we do have a GPA requirement. So it requires a 3.40 grade point average overall and a 3.25 grade point average in biology, chemistry, physics, and math courses recommended. Our preference is given to those who have higher GPAs and are more competitive in our process. But again, as long as you are meeting these eligibility standards, you will still be considered for admission. For those that are asking questions about graduating a year early in the chat, you are able to graduate early with approval from our leadership team and with knowledge of that. But again, we handle those on a case-by-case basis. So everyone's educational journey is a little unique, but in those cases, you're typically expected to be engaged in a clinical opportunity or another activity before you matriculate to medical school. So you'll essentially have a gap year that you would need to deal with if you are planning to graduate early. So you can graduate early, but you will not enter medical school early, to clarify that question. To talk a little bit more about the details of program eligibility, you have to be a Texas resident for the purposes of tuition under the Texas Education Code. If you have questions about your Texas residency, feel free to reach out to us via email at info@texasjamp.org, and we can help and kind of talk you through our process for that residency determination. But we do not make any final residency determinations until after your application has been submitted. So I encourage you, even if you're unsure about it, go ahead and submit your application and let us contact you about any of that residency info. You do have to be an American citizen or a permanent US resident alien in possession of that documentation. And you do have to provide documentation and history as an economically disadvantaged applicant. And the way we do that is through the FAFSA. So you do have to have completed the FAFSA for aid year 2025-26 and also 26-27. So please go ahead and fill out that FAFSA if you haven't already, because that's an important part of us determining your eligibility from an economic standpoint. And then lastly, but also importantly, you do have to be able to perform all of our medical school's essential functions as delineated in their technical standards. So that's just another thing I like to continue to emphasize as you go through that. I see some additional questions in the chat, so I'm going to answer those really quickly. If you completed both OCHEMs over the summer, you're good, so long as you had your C's or above. All grades count. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for that. Are students being admitted through the schools, or does JAMP accept applicants before considering what amount of qualifying students come from specific schools? We admit students from across all participating schools, and we use a variety of holistic factors to make those determinations. So we're looking at your entire story as an applicant. We'll talk a little bit about that later. If you're going into freshman year now, you will need to finish OCHEM 1 and 2 this year if you're applying for our early admissions track. If you're applying for our regular track, so next year, then you would have the year after that to do your OCHEM 1 and 2 this time. But again, case by case, great questions. I'm going to try to hold till the end so that we can continue to make it through today's presentation. But as I mentioned, another part of being prepared for this process is building your support team, making sure you've got parents, a guardian, family, a partner, a friend, someone that is here to help you and maybe like read your personal statement or be there with you to help like understand a timeline or things like that. Don't try to do this alone. It can be a very difficult process to try to go through by yourself. Additionally, you'll want to be connected with your teachers and professors, people who could write a letter of recommendation for you or give you guidance on your professional career and your engagement. Definitely connecting to your academic advisor or your health professions advisor so that they can make sure that you're up to date with your institution's specific requirements for pre-med students. Finding a mentor, finding a healthcare professional, and finding just someone that's going to be a cheerleader for you throughout this process is very important as you begin applying to JAMP. There are some recommended activities that we encourage all of our applicants to engage in so that they can prepare and write a great application. And so this all begins with connecting with your pre-health advisor or mentors that kind of understand the med school application process and that understand the JAMP application process. These are going to be your experts that can answer your questions about what activities look good or what things you can get engaged in to really bolster your application, and can even give you tips on how to write about these experiences in a way that conveys to a admissions professional who might be reading your application. I really also want to encourage you to get involved on your campuses, get involved in student orgs and things that are meaningful to you. Engage in research as you're able to. I know a lot of great undergraduate institutions provide opportunities to engage in research, but often faculty are looking for students just like you who are engaged and interested in learning more to join their research and join their process and help with looking at articles and things like that. And so I encourage you to start seeking out those opportunities, especially if you're early in this process. I see that there are a lot of potential incoming freshmen in the call today, and so that can be a great way to start getting involved there. As I mentioned, connect with your faculty and staff. Go to office hours, build and foster network connections that are not just, oh, I'm a student in your class and I got a good grade. That's going to be very important as you're navigating this journey. Additionally, explore courses and interests that make you unique, that are keeping you well fed academically, both from a pre-med medical school perspective, but also just from like a staying interested and engaged in school. Take that very cool cinema course or that music course if you're interested in doing it. As long as you're graduating on time, still explore those things and explore those interests, because you never know how that's going to intertwine with your future and intertwine with your potential research interests or medical school interests and things like that. Your wellness is very important as well, so find hobbies, still have fun. And I would be remiss not to mention that it's very important to also find clinical experiences or clinical volunteer experiences that can help bolster your clinical exposure as you're applying to programs just like JAMP. So again, if you can reach out to hospital systems and reach out to clinic volunteers or work with your pre-health advisor to find opportunities that can get you in a patient environment, whether that's through shadowing, volunteering, or even through certifications like EMT or Farm Tech or any of those great programs. Those are all great things to highlight and include as activities in your JAMP application. As I mentioned, and probably the most important step of preparing for this process is meeting with and creating a relationship with your JAMP faculty director. Your role in this process is to initiate and maintain contact, make sure that they know that you're interested in applying to JAMP and that you're interested in applying this year or in a future year. Know that their role is to provide you guidance and assistance and to potentially write a letter of recommendation for you as a part of this process. It is not their job to handhold you or walk you through without holding you to any standard. It is your responsibility to foster and be the prepared applicant that you can be with their support. They've got a lot of things that they juggle on their hands, and so you want to make it as easy for them to support you as possible. So fostering that relationship, being an easy student that's organized and on top of their deadlines, and staying in communication with them is very important. Learn and build a relationship, because this is a relationship that will be cultivated throughout your entire undergraduate journey should you be selected with JAMP. And it's important that that is a positive and helpful relationship for the both of you. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of applying to JAMP. I will do a quick question break since I'm at a good stop. If you are an incoming college freshman, you should not apply until the summer going into the sophomore year unless you've got 27 hours of dual credit coursework available to you. If you've got that amount of dual credit coursework and you're entering as a sophomore, you will join with the regular admission track next year. Let's see. Does it matter when we apply or just before the deadline? Cody, great question. The early submitters get the best review of their application. All of our applications that we receive get a great review, but the earlier you submit, the more that we can provide you support through the process. So if there is a processing error or if there is something the matter with your application, it gives us time to give you that feedback. So the earlier, the better. So early applications look fantastic. They are a proof of your professionalism and organization and help us with our determination. So again, early submissions are good. We've got a preferred deadline that I will go over when we talk about the timeline specifically, but definitely earlier is better. Would any clinical hours I earned from training for certifications be counted towards your clinical hours? Yes. Highlight those in your clinical experience section. If we submit our application this summer, but we don't do research or shadowing until this fall, how would that help in the process? Yes, I would encourage you to wait for future activities or list future activities on your application. But if you know that there's going to be some great opportunities coming up, that might be good reason to postpone your application for a little bit, just so you can talk about it and reflect on it. Does the JAMP Faculty Director have to write the letter of recommendation? No, they do not. We recommend them to be one of your letter writers, and often they want to be one of your letter writers, and they can kind of speak to your readiness for the program. Every institution's a little different, so just make sure you've contacted your faculty director, but it's also completely okay to find those letters of rec from other sources that might know you better or have a better connection with you. But again, work that out with your JAMP faculty director just so that you guys are on the same page. So that's a fantastic thing. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for helping me in the chat with all these questions. The GPA requirement is calculated after you input your grades into our application, and it will count your GPA as your dual credit GPA as well as your first year GPA, depending on whether it's classified as dual credit or credit by exam, et cetera, et cetera. Again, some of those case-by-case things, it would depend. And yes, who do we contact to ask about eligibility due to having extra credits or graduating early? Worry about getting accepted into the program, and then we will work on your academic timeline once you are accepted into the program. For now, my big encouragement is apply, and then we'll handle your case-by-case situations should you be selected for the program. Great questions, y'all. Jumping in, I mentioned that there's necessary financial documentation that you have to submit as a part of this application. So this is an important thing to write down. You will need to have filled out and submitted the FAFSA for both the 2025-26 year and the 2026-27 year. If you're an early admissions track, you just need the 2026-27 year. And we are looking for an SAI or a student aid index of negative 1,500 to 7,000, or if you know that you are Pell Grant eligible, that also meets our requirements for financial aid eligibility. If you are unsure about your financial aid status and things like that, again, I encourage you to just submit everything, submit your application, and let us make that determination for you, rather than just sitting out of an application cycle just because you're not sure. But again, you will need to complete that FAFSA. You will need to provide your SARs, which are your student aid report, which show us your aid year and your SAI range. So again, that is very important to do. So that'll be something you want to have access to and that you can access at studentaid.gov. For the application timeline for this entry year cycle, the application has opened. As of May 1 of this year, the application is live on texasjamp.org. And so I encourage you to check that out and check out our website to read over the eligibility requirements, to find the JFD that's at your campus, and also to just learn more about the program. July 2026 is right now, so you were still early in the timeline. We have got some great application workshops coming up this month to go over writing your personal statement, writing about your activities, and also about your letters of evaluation. So I encourage you to join us for those. During August, I will be holding applicant office hours, and those will be posted on our link tree as well, where they will be just open Q&A with access to me to provide support on your applications and making sure that you're preparing successfully and that you've got good feedback going into this cycle. Our recommended date for JAMP application submission is September 18th, 2026. And again, that is our ideal date for you to submit that application. It shows that you're professional and on top of your game when it comes to those things. But our official deadline, the last moment that you can submit a JAMP application, is 5 p.m. CST on October 2nd, 2026. So you have to have it submitted by that date. So if that's the last minute thing or you're fitting in those final fall experiences in there, that's the last moment that you can click the submit button. Lastly, there are supplemental documentation requirements for this. So we do require 2 letters of recommendation along with that financial documentation. So you'll just want to be aware of that deadline of October 16th for your letter writers to supply those letters for our application purposes. After you submit and hit that submit button and get us your letters of rec, it is up to you to sit for a JAMP interview, and that is the second part of this process. You will then be admitted into JAMP if you are selected in March 2027. So that if you are applying this year, that is the timeline for now. But if you have more specific questions about the timeline, I encourage you to join right there at texasjamp.org to learn more information and get the specific dates for all of those things. But again, submit that application by October 2nd at the very latest, with supplemental documentation by October 16th. When you are ready to apply, attend JAMP application workshops just like this, review the JAMP program criteria and guidelines, and to help you every step of the way of preparing your JAMP application, we've got a great JAMP application handbook that you can reference as you're going through all of the sections and preparing your statements and your various content for the application. Some of the documents that you're going to need to collect include the transcripts at all the colleges that you've attended, along with your high school information. We do ask for your high school GPA and some of that information as well. You will also need your FAFSA documentation with your SARs, and I encourage you to think through your leadership, your research, your clinical and community engagement experiences, and having a resume handy, especially if you prepared one for your college application and things like that, can be really helpful to help you remember all of the activities that you've engaged in so far. And that's something that you can definitely be working on and continuing to have just in your back pocket, especially if you're an entering freshman. We've got a couple of those in the chat right now. And so starting to have that resume building and being mindful of the different things that we're going to be looking for is very helpful. And then again, making the meeting with your JAMP Faculty Director, making sure that they can provide you guidance on the process, assist you with letters of evaluation, and provide any guidance on your particular supporting documents, or just as a connector to reach out to us with any questions can be super helpful. Again, it's important for you to foster this relationship and make sure that you are giving them the opportunity to support you in the way that they need to be able to do that. I promise we're gonna have time for questions. I see a bunch of them popping up in the chat, but remember the following: you need to be prepared. So you need to be aware of those application deadlines that I've shared earlier today. You need to have those documents ready, whether it's the SARs that I mentioned earlier, your transcripts and all your grades from the years of college that you've attended, including community college and high school. Make sure that you're being thorough. Don't rush through these sections. We really notice if you're using like ChatGPT for all of your responses, or if you are, just doing quick sentences or not using correct grammar or punctuation. It's like go section by section with the app handbook. Make sure that you are taking time to review your personal statement, that you're building in enough time to actually review the stuff that you're writing. Don't submit a first draft. You owe it to your future self as a future physician one day to put in a lot of effort and be the best applicant that you can be. So be thorough. Be professional. This is going to be something that we instill in you throughout the entire JAMP program, but know that your personal statement should demonstrate thought and effort. So that does mean complete sentences, good grammar, good structure, good construction, a good thought. It's not just, I want to do medicine and support the people of Texas because it's a good thing to do. We want to see a robust amount of effort and thought put into your personal statement. I encourage you to use a professional photo or a headshot style photo or a nice just photo with a neutral background of you in a nice outfit that's very professional for a professional setting when you are submitting your application. It kind of shows your preparedness and that you're not just rushing or submitting a quick selfie on your application or anything like that. And know that every interaction that you have with the JAMP program, with your JFD, with anyone in this sphere, within this sphere of support, is a first impression that could affect you in some way. So be professional, be on top of your schedule, be on top of your communication, and be responsive. Check and respond to your messages, check and respond to your emails, check your junk mail if needed, but definitely be a proactive communicator, not a reactive communicator. I did mention that there are some other workshops coming up. So I know we went through a lot of information during the past 45 minutes, but we've got our second application workshop coming up on July 15th in just 2 short weeks from the same time, where we're going to be talking all about writing your personal statement. So we're going to talk about the prompt. We're going to talk about writing your essay. We're going to talk about constructing it. We'll even have some time to brainstorm and workshop and kind of build out your why and kind of talk about that together. And then on the 31st, we are going to be highlighting your experiences and collecting your letters of evaluation. So we'll talk about that process, who you should ask, how you should ask for those letters, and again, kind of just facilitating and bolstering some of the information that you might get from your health professions advisors on your campuses. So again, check us out, register now on our link tree. And definitely stay connected with us via Instagram, which is just instagram.com/TexasJamp. Or if you're on your phone, just TexasJamp. Check out our website. It's full of great videos about our program, a great deal of information about the application and our program in general. And I encourage you to check out our link tree for future workshops or office hour links as those become available. But now, as I promised, I'm going to make it through a bunch of questions. So now is your time. I am going to just open the floor to any questions in the chat. First, just to kind of get through those. And then if you're feeling brave and want to come off the mic and ask your question there, we can definitely do that. But we've got about 13 minutes. So let's see. I'm just going to try to jump to the ones that Dr. Gonzalez didn't already get mentioned. Regular admission, we encourage you to go ahead and list your high school activities. Ida had a question in the chat about high school activities in general. You guys are early enough in your collegiate journeys to still highlight some relevant high school experiences. So especially if you did like a certification or you have some shadowing or clinical experience from the high school years, you're more than welcome to include those. Even leadership would be a good thing to include. I would not recommend listing every single student org you did in high school or every National Honor Society thing like that. But again, if you held a leadership position or you did something meaningful that you still want to highlight, those things can still be relevant. Jose, I see you have your name, your hand held up, so go ahead and come off the mic.
Yes, hi. I really appreciate the info you just provided. It was really insightful. I do have a question regarding the, I guess like the awards section part of the application. So like there's two options. It's either like high school or after high school. So for those like that got scholarships, like big name scholarships or just scholarships in general, and they're obviously you apply to them during high school, like your senior year, but you use obviously like throughout your 4 years of college. So what part would it qualify? Would it be like after high school since you're using it for college, or would it be like since you got it during high school? So yeah, that's the question I have.
I would qualify that as actually like an after high school award because while you applied for it in high school, you're actually receiving that award in college. So I would call that an after high school thing. As long as you have a way to justify that reasonably, we're not going to like say, oh, he's lying on his application from there. Especially if it's something that you're receiving over the course of 4 years, that is absolutely an award that is college level.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Great question. Um, let's see. Yes, Dr. Gonzalez is doing a great job of answering all the questions about specific students from specific universities accepted. We say at least 2 students per public and then 1 per private, but we do fill our entire cohort with the most competitive applicants beyond that. But we do try to spread the love across the state as the legislation says. A great question. Are there any common mistakes you see applicants make that end up hurting their chances? Not answering the optional questions and not putting that effort in with punctuation and sentence structure. We get a lot of lowercase responses in these JAMP applications. And so I encourage you to really take the time. Don't just generate it with AI. Maybe use AI as a thought pump partner and things like that. But again, we can tell if it has been generated by an AI. So again, watch out for those things. Use it to support you, but don't use it to write your stuff. And again, really just taking advantage of all the places in the application where you get to brag about yourself. Don't leave things blank is great advice. Yes, when is it recommended to reach out to individuals writing your evaluations? They will love you if you reach out to them sooner rather than later. These are very busy people, and so making sure that you reach out soon is important. I'm going to scroll down just to make sure I am getting to everything. Is there a percentage of the application that matters more? Melanie, that is a great question. We participate in a process that's called holistic review or mission-centric review, and really what we're looking at is every part of your application. And if you want to think about it as like an additive process where you're trying to gain points throughout the system. So you want to fill out and highlight your fit with JAMP in as many parts of the application as possible. So whether that's your research, whether that's your clinical, whether that's your personal statement, whether that's your community service. So everything helps you. So there's not one section that we're going to weight higher than the other. We want to see this whole picture and this whole fit for our program. And so my encouragement to you is to think through ways where, you know, even like that employment at Walmart, where you were helping in the grocery store, how is that leadership? How can I apply that as like a potential way that I built a skill? Think about your experiences and how valuable that has been into your development and find a way to like spin that as a part of the section. It's harder to do that with clinical experiences. You know, the clinical experiences are usually just clinical or they're not. But I encourage you to like think about, you know, maximizing every section rather than thinking like, oh, is there one thing that's the most important? Because honestly, everything's important. But at the same time, you know, highlight the stuff that makes you special, highlight how you really fit our mission, highlight how you are unique. As Dr. Gonzalez mentioned in the chat, the more you can share about yourself and your story, the better. Like, talk to me about where you've come from. Talk to me about the experiences that you've had in healthcare. Talk to me about why physician seems like the right career for you. But yeah, fantastic question. What type of people are expected to be in the significant figures section? I encourage you to take a look at our app handbook. I would need to review that myself. But again, you're gonna want to just take a look at all of those resources out there. And again, if you reach out to us via email, we can handle lots of questions there too. Does dual credit and AP go towards college GPA? We typically do all that calculation in the portal once you've submitted your application. So Typically, I believe that dual credit in AP is just CR or just credit received, and so it wouldn't impact you negatively. It's a little different with dual credit versus AP. AP is always credit received, but dual credit, depending on if it was a through the community college or not, depending on how it's reported, it could change. So case by case grade things. I know that's a thing that a lot of people have questions about, but just be mindful of that. Bow with the grade for AP classes. There's information on the app handbook on submitting your coursework, but it will be CR or credit received for that. Jacqueline with a great question. Is there a difference between a letter of recommendation and a letter of evaluation? There's not a difference. They're all kind of the same. So again, great question. Thank you for asking that. There is not a word limit for the letter of evaluation. Typically, that's just set by your letter writer. So that you will just ask for a letter of evaluation or a letter of recommendation from there. Joy has a question about transferring to a new school for sophomore year of college. And I would encourage you to reach out to that JAMP faculty director at your new campus as soon as possible, just to start fostering that relationship. But every institution is a little different. So I would encourage you to reach out and see if you can start building that connection now. If you completed biology dual credit in high school, should I redo it since it is a medical school requirement? Every institution is a little different. It would still count towards your necessary prereq requirements for medical school, but I always say that getting the collegiate level of all of these prereq courses is typically the better way to go about it. You'll feel more prepared. Obviously, if you're on track to graduate early and you want to take advantage of all that hard work and effort that you put into that dual credit time, you can definitely proceed onward, but do just make sure that you feel ready for those upper division biology classes. If you don't feel quite ready for that yet, or if you get there and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, definitely talk to your academic advisor and talk to them about that, because they can give you a lot of good insight on that. Jacqueline, great question. What expectations does JAMP have for accepted students? We hold our students to a very high standard in this program, both professionally and academically, but we also provide a lot of support to make sure they get there. And so for our students, we, just to kind of address like the professionalism aspect, we ask for regular communication, engagement in all of our mandatory activities, whether that's orientations, internships, programming through our Jack Weston MCAT preparation. We hold a very high attendance standard and engagement standard. Luckily, it's very exciting to be a part of the program. So most of the time I'm not having to work too hard to make sure that we're getting that engagement, but we do hold you to a high level of communication and a high level of professional communication, addressing people appropriately, respectfully in a written, verbal, or nonverbal communication pattern. It's really important that you're engaging people with respect and honor and integrity throughout every interaction that you're having through the program. Additionally, we hold a very high academic standard. You must maintain your eligible GPA. You must reach 502 on the MCAT in order to remain eligible throughout the program for guaranteed admission through the pathway. So there are lots of academic expectations, but again, we provide lots of support throughout the way. And so that's something to be very mindful of. Dima has a question about what separates applicants who get accepted from those that end up as alternates. And that's a great question. Sometimes it comes down to the GPA, with just to be perfectly honest. That is a big indicator of success for both the program and for medical school. And so making sure that your grades are up to snuff, especially for our freshmen in the audience, make sure you're jumping into that first year with a lot of effort and a lot of rigor so that you feel ready to, really have a high GPA going into this process. Just because it can be a very competitive pool. Last year, we had 448 applicants to the program and only 100 slots. So you can imagine it gets very competitive throughout all of our schools to participate in the program. But again, because we participate in a holistic review process, it really comes down to who is the most mission aligned and who was able to demonstrate the most mission alignment through both their application and interview. So that is a very important thing to do. Um, Cody has a question. Do JAMP scholars, we used to call them JAMPers, we call them JAMP scholars now because we hold them to a really high standard, but they typically get into at least, I would say, they get to rank all 14 schools should they meet all the program expectations. And I would say most students end up in at least their top 5, which is amazing. The great part about being in Texas is that we've got so many amazing medical school programs, and all of them have the supports and the incredible academic ability to set you up for success as a physician. And so we're really lucky here in Texas to get to have that. And so you will definitely be competitive to pursue the program that you're interested in, but do know that no matter what program you should get matched to, it all works out for a reason and it's all a good thing. Cody, I won't go into the details of how all the match works because that's a little bit of a complicated process, but I'm happy to explain it over email for you. That's more of a question that I would answer if you were like in the programs that we could discuss it more. But very simply, you interview, you rank 14 schools, they rank all of our scholars, and then a magic math algorithm does all the work to match you with the school. So there's a little bit more to it than just that, but that's essentially how the match works. So it's similar to the traditional match, but it's just for JAMP scholars. And then our last question for today, because we do have to end right at 1 p.m., is does it matter whether a recommendation letter comes from a college professor or a high school teacher? We would love to see insight from the college level, but in no way will it penalize you if you are unable to find a letter writer at the college level and that you have maybe a high school mentor or a high school teacher that would love to write a letter and would speak highly of you and has a good relationship with you. I would encourage at least one of those letters to come from a college level professor or your JFD of some kind or a health professions advisor, just so that we can have that perspective as well. Again, thank you so much for spending your afternoon and your lunch hour with me. It was great getting to see so many wonderful faces, excited about the application process. Thank you to Dr. Gonzalez in the chat for answering so many questions on my behalf. And we look forward to seeing you at our next workshop on July 15th. Take care, everyone, and best of luck as you start filling out your JAMP application.